today we're going to talk about leadership in sales.
No problem.
And I think the driving of a sales team, I think, is probably what all of this can actually fall into. When we were talking about this topic the other day, that was kind of, I guess, as you like to educate me, the subheading of what everything kind of falls under and how to drive a sales team and how to, still lead a sales team when you're not necessarily the person who's actively selling daily. So I guess obviously a good place to start is, how would you summarize or sum up a leadership role in sales?
How would I sum up a leadership role in sales? We were going to talk about you being the leader in sales first.
Yeah.
I speak about this a lot. If you're going to lead people in sales, then you better be unbelievable at selling. I seen this really cool thing with Mark Cuban. You know who Mark Cuban is? Billionaire.
Yep.
Owns the Mavericks. Really cool guy. He's
always very tanned.
I think, he's always very Mark Cuban. I mean, his name's Cuban, right? You have to have a bit. It's like being called Hercules with no muscle. You have to kind of have a wee bit of muscle if you go call yourself Hercules or Zeus, right? See, I was watching that thing with Mark Cuban talking about when he bought the Mavericks. So he bought this team, right? He became a billionaire. He created this online company, sold it, became a billionaire, bought the Mavericks for like $250 million. And he went into the Mavericks and he's got a sales team. And one of the things with his basketball team were the basketball team weren't filling up the seats every week.
Right.
So he's getting his sales team. He's like, we need bums in seats. We need people, phone everybody that's ever bought a ticket.
Like fans.
But just get the fans back in the door, get the families in the door, let's hustle and do deals. And he says the team were all really surprised because I went and got myself a desk and pulled out a phone book and got myself a phone and put it in the middle of the sales room.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why would you do that? And he's like, well, I wanted to show them straight away that there was no job in that company that I just bought over that I wasn't willing to do. So straight away I was going to get down and dirty and just started calling fans the same as, and he says, and then I get total respect to everybody.
Yeah.
So even somebody who's at a billionaire level talks about how when he buys a company, he goes in at the ground level and gets his hands dirty straight away because that's what gets ultimate respect. A lot of sales leaders especially, I mean, think about the term sales, right? I'm not saying you don't drive people in KPIs and other roles, you do. Even like if you're drive an administrative team, you still drive them to do KPIs. So I'm not saying that sales is the only thing where you drive people, but the idea of a sales manager or a sales leader is somebody who drives the result, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of people think you drive that through power. A lot of people think you drive that through all the stuff. You have the power, money, incentives, team culture, all that stuff doesn't count if the team doesn't respect you. And the only way the team's going to respect, they're not going to respect you based on position, they're not going to respect you based on what you used to do, they're going to respect you on what you're capable of doing. So I think a sales leader's first role is to be better than everybody else that they're managing, or at least have a certain level of ability that everybody knows about, because people only respect actions and results. So I think as a sales leader, if you're somebody that, if I was to get into a sales company, right, and take on a sales job, let's say, for saying sake, I decide I don't want to work for myself anymore. I don't want to deal with the dark side of entrepreneurship, and I want an easy, stable, I don't even know if it's stable, but easier life where I don't want to be responsible for people, whatever, right? And I'm going to take a sales leadership role in a car showroom. I've never worked in a car showroom before. I would refuse to go in as a sales leader unless they were going to allow me to go spend a couple of months selling cars first.
Yeah.
So I think I'd have to get in, and even though I could say I've 22 years in sales, B2B, events-based sales, done it in 3 different continents, here's all the products and services I sold, here's all the sales team, I teach people how to run sales companies and showed them all the stats, not the money I've made in sales. Nobody really cares about that. But if I go on the shop floor and outsell everybody for 3 months, I demand respect.
Yeah.
And I don't demand it forcefully, and I don't demand it because of a badge on and I'm sitting behind the desk and I got a promotion. I demand it because you're forced to take advice from me because I can beat you at your job. So I think the role of a sales leader, first of all, is to lead, and then the next role of a sales leader is to figure out how to get the team to perform at that level as well. And that's lots of wee different things that I think all these questions are going to cover. So your first job is to earn the respect of the team. People only do things 100% if they choose to do it. So if people choose to work hard for you, then you'll get the best out of people. If people are working hard because you're telling them to, because you're the leader / manager / I got a promotion, so I sit behind the desk, then you're not going to get best out of people. Yeah. I think the first job of being a sales leader is understanding how you actually get people's respect.
Yeah, 100%. I think we've seen too many people in the past who almost like live on like their former glory, like they've done it once and they got there and they've never been able to do it again, and they try to kind of dine out on that for the next 10 years, and then that doesn't work because you almost become like a one-hit wonder, or you know, no one's seen it or no one saw you in that position. So I think it is, you know, even when you've proven what you can do, it's always adding that value afterwards as well, so it kind of lives up to it and keeps it going.
Yeah, it's only as good as your last game, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Unless we could go into driving a team a wee bit more. So when you're not the person doing the sales, so when I'm not the person doing the sales, I think a role of a team leader is then to replace himself with someone who is equally as good as them or better than they were.
Yeah.
So that people have got, so we call it a white rabbit in sales. And a white rabbit is do you know the concept of a white rabbit? So it's you ever been to a dog race?
Can't say I have,
You
no.
haven't been to a dog race? Okay, so the dog race, basically they get a wee fake white rabbit and they got all these dogs in the kennels and the rabbit goes chung and comes out, that actually makes that noise, by the way. And it comes
One
out
more time?
the white rabbit chung. And so the white rabbit goes round and all the dogs chase the rabbit.
Right.
So in sales, so if you want somebody to be, call it a pace setter, right, which is a race term. You've seen the half marathon Glasgow yesterday, watching a friend of ours. The pace setter is the person at the front. Or the white rabbit's the thing at the front that everything's chasing.
Yeah.
So your job as a leader is to be that person, but your job after that, if you're going to get into more of a kind of management role and you are going to sit behind the desk and not be in the shop floor, is to create other people like that, or as many people like that as humanly possible, because people need somebody to chase.
Yeah.
They're trendsetters or influencers or whatever, but they're them in the workplace and them in sales. So if I learn how to sell, I don't know what would be a good week, I don't know, 10 cars a week. I don't know how many cars people selling. If I sell 10 cars a week and it's just me that does that, I need to then figure out how to replace myself and get as many people as possible, because then I'm not the white rabbit, I'm not the one doing the sales anymore.
Yeah.
So if I want to grow into a sales leadership role where I'm not the one doing the sales, I first of all have to do them, get the respect, and then replace myself. Only then can I come away for the person who has to do the sales.
Yeah.
That's any company. That's not just a sales role, but that's any role. So I hate saying it just in a sales term, but I think if you were asking me about leadership and recruitment or leadership and, I don't know, dishwashing, I'll tell you the same thing.
Yeah.
I'll tell you the same thing.
Find someone really good at it.
Leadership's leadership. Become exceptional at what you do. Figure out what the boundaries are. Get the respect of your people. Make them want to work for you. Make them want to learn for you. Replace yourself as many times over as you can, and that's when you grow into your role.
So when it does come to a team and when it does come to a sales collective, I guess, how do you get everyone to, I guess, buy into the goals and the standards that are set for the team, and how do you do it as a collective when each person is an individual?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Thank you so
I
much.
take 10 minutes to think about that. Phone a friend.
Okay.
50-50.
What's like waiting music, hold music?
I think to do that, you've got to have a common goal that affects everybody in a positive way. So let's just take an example, right? If I just say, the goal of the company is to do 500 sales a week.
Yeah.
Let's just go car sales again.
Yeah.
The goal this month is for the company to do 500 sales as a team this week, right? But there's no benefit to everybody, and there's no benefit to everybody collabing and working towards that together. Then nobody's really going to work towards it. So it's the same way I set any goal, is you got to set a goal, but then you got to give them the why behind the goal and the benefit to them. And then there's a benefit of everybody working towards it. So let's say I say on two different managers, one just says, okay, here's the target for the month, we have to hit 500. And that's manager A. Manager B then says, we got a target to hit, which is 500. Here's the reason we need to hit 500, because if we hit 500, we get more budget. More budget means we can get more training for everybody. More training for everybody means we can upskill everybody, which means everybody can hit their bonuses and get more money. What team do you think is going to perform the best?
Yeah, it's inspiring versus just telling, isn't it?
Yeah, it's teaching people the why behind things, but not just the why of the business, but how does it track back to us as individuals, and how does it help our career move? Let's go. People are selfish by nature. So if I can't track it back to why this benefits, there's only a certain amount of work you'll do because you have to do it to keep the job, right?
Yeah, you won't go above and beyond.
Above and beyond, to get people above and beyond, then there's going to have to be a benefit to them. Sometimes that can be money. Sometimes that can be other rewards. Sometimes it can be the culture being better. It might be a vending machine. It might be free like whatever. But there's got to be, I think you've got to be able to trickle it down to that. And then I think you've got to set a goal which would encompass, if that's the right word, you've got to set a goal which means everybody has to accomplish to get there, which means people are going to pull people along with them.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. And I think that's something you've always said whenever I've heard you kind of talk to leaders, that we've had as well, as your goal needs to be big enough for everybody else as well. So what everyone else is trying to achieve. Yeah.
Yeah, you have your wee mini goals in between that, and that's more a one-on-one. But we were talking about team, I was talking about as a collective. It's actually funny because I'm thinking over the weekend that I need a team goal in our sales office and I need a reward for everybody, and I'm trying to figure out what the reward is going to be. It's not going to be a vending machine or coffee. It'll be like a weekend away somewhere.
Yeah.
And now I'm debating, do I do that with the leadership team or do I do that with the whole team? For the goalies we've got a goal to do 600 sales in a week and break our own record. Well, if we do 500, we break our own record. But I would like us to accomplish that before the end of April. But I need to figure out a reward where it's so beneficial that it makes sense for people to go above and beyond, because the only way we hit it is above and beyond, and the only way we hit it is if everybody's into it.
Yeah, 100%.
So I think if you're a leader, you've got to think, I've been thinking about this for 4 weeks. I think a lot of people just get in and set a goal because it sounds good, but I've got to think about, what goal are we setting? Can this team that we have just now accomplish that? Because if it's too far-fetched, too quick, they're all going to lose morale quite quickly and give up quite quickly. So it has to be something that people truly believe if they do that little bit extra, they'll accomplish. But I think the reward, and one of the rewards is pride. I'll build on pride of it's our record, right? We hold the sales record as an office. Not that we're boasting, but we are. But anyway, we hold the all-time record in sales. But I want us to break our record. So I think the pride of being part of something that's the best ever, I think, is one thing. But I think if you back that with maybe for the leadership group, I'm thinking I do an all expenses paid trip to, we go to Milan for the weekend, or, go to Tenerife on a Friday, whatever. It was just something where if the company does that amount of, this is how I break it down to them. If the company has this amount of sales, here's the profit the company makes. If the company makes that profit, we're going to take a chunk of that profit and we're going to take it and we're going to blow it on all you guys.
Yeah.
And so it's a bonus as a team, but it's only if the team hit it. So therefore, if the team's working towards that, I see you slacking, and we're getting close to that bonus. I'm going to push you. It's like you're only as strong as your weakest link, right?
Yeah, everyone's holding each other accountable because they've all got stuff to do. There.
Yeah. Well, in the forces, you can't do it this way, but in the forces, what they do is when you're in basic training, if someone doesn't iron their trousers properly or make their bed properly in the morning, they punish everybody else and make you stand up, so they know who got everybody punished. And it's an opposite way. It's a wee bit of fear where they'll have a word with you the next night. Also quite an encouraging word as well, because you're only as strong as your weakest link. Can't leave a man or a woman behind. So the forces have got their own wee ways of making sure that everybody operates as a team, because they've got to teach them to operate in a team like that. Well, this is the opposite. It's not a fear kind of way. It's a reward.
Yeah. So how do you then go about creating that team work environment and that collaborative environment, but yet still keep, because in sales there needs to be that aspect of a healthy competition. So how do you balance having everyone work together and being in tandem and everyone being lovey and loving each other, but as opposed to also then pushing each other and work at going head to head with each other and kind of that competitive side?
You got to be a good strategist. I think when you talk about having fun and lovey, I think you got to make everybody realise it's a professional relationship. It's not personal. You don't have to love everybody. You don't have to like. I've had people in my team I didn't like on a personal level, but I loved them on a professional level. And vice versa. I'm sure there's people on a personal level who didn't like me, but I'm not business to make friends. I make some along the way. I make friends along the way naturally, like you do in anything in life, but I don't come into it. I don't try and encourage friendships or false relationships. I try and encourage professional, beneficial relationships. So I think getting a team to work together whilst creating healthy competition. I think for me, I'm very good at showing people the value and collabing with other people and showing people that, my weaknesses might be somebody else's strengths. So it's good to collab where we can help each other. Many hands make light work. I teach people to be resourceful and have good business relationships, because they never know when they're going to need things for people. But I actually teach people to give before they receive. I actually tell people to add value first and ask second. So I learned this very on in my sales career. And I say learned it. One of the things I did get when I came into sales, or I did understand about, one of the reasons I fell in love with sales, because it's a people game. And I just understood when I was new to sales that people were selfish by nature. So how do I get somebody to collab and help me? Well, first of all, I go help them first. I help them to the point where they feel like they owe me. I actually actively teach people, go help people who need help. Actively come in every day and ask people how you can help them and how you can, it's going to sound very American, but how you can serve them right. Is there anybody you want me to train? Is there any help? Is there anything I can do for you? Because in return, what are good people going to say?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, thanks very much for that. Is there anything I can do to help you back? And that's how you encourage that relationship.
Banking favours.
Banking favours. And I just bank favours. I bank favours with everybody. But I teach the guys that, and I think you got to point out, because we're all pre-programmed, but for the most part, pre-programmed to judge on the negative stuff. So I'm very quick. I try and reframe people's mindset to not looking at the things they don't like about somebody, but rather than that, look at the things that are positive and what people can add, and look at people for their strengths. You know, you might be a positive person, but lazy. It doesn't mean I don't talk to you and I don't collaborate. It just means I only talk to you about your positivity and only get you to help people with that part. So I think it's teaching people how to think about professional relationships, teaching people to think about how they add value first before they get it back, and then showing people the value in actually networking and collabing with other people. Like getting people, helping other people makes you feel good, and getting help back makes you feel good. And if everybody's collabing together, many hands make light work. So it just makes your life a lot easier. It's being resourceful.
But then how does that balance out with being competitive with everyone else as well?
What do you mean by being competitive? How do you get them to be competitive?
Yeah, so yes, you want them to collaborate, and yes, you want everyone to kind of bank those favours and help each other out, but you also want them to secretly really want to beat them and really want to crush them and really want to be the best salesman and have that kind of competitive edge towards it all.
I think a lot of people in sales do cheap competition. And I'll explain cheap competition. They get them to shout at each other and threaten each other and challenge each other and do all
like
that
call
stuff.
each other out type of thing.
I tell them to never to tell anybody they want to beat them. I'm quite, it's going to sound bad. It's not going to sound bad. I'm quite sneaky with comp. I don't do cheap competition. I do sneaky competition. And I never wanted to tell anybody I was competing with them, because I just lost somebody that wanted to collab with me.
Yeah.
I never bragged about beating somebody, unless we're having a wee bit of banter. I never bragged about beating someone. I quietly, in my head, bragged about beating them. Even if I didn't like someone and wanted to crush them, I crushed them quietly. So keep your friends close and enemies closer all the time.
Yeah.
So I try and teach my leaders to do that, to quietly try and be the best, but also make it beneficial for them being the best, which is to get the best rewards, they get the most attention, they get the best bonuses. I like commission-based sales roles, as we know, or highly bonused sales roles, because then there's natural competition there, because people get it. And I think there's loads of wee things as a leader that I do that make people want to beat each other. Little things with time spent with people, and even how you say hello to people. And so I think competition's often seen in as people saying, I'm going to beat you. And it being like a rivalry, and that's why a lot of people call it healthy competition versus unhealthy. I don't think there's healthy or unhealthy. I just think there's competition. So I just think it becomes unhealthy when people do the cheap version, which is them going at each other, and someone slagging someone off for beating them that day, or threatening. That's very rife in sales, and I'm going to call it cheap competition again. I do strategic competition.
Yeah.
Even if I set someone a bonus to beat someone, part of the deal with their bonus is they're not allowed to tell the person that I set them the bonus, or they deduct the bonus. So I'll get them to quietly want to crush each other, and that's one-on-one people management.
Yeah.
So I never set bonuses as team, but I'll set loads of it. This person never knows that person's on a bonus. And this person never knows that I bonus them if they beat that person.
Yeah.
I always bonus people to beat their sales leaders.
Yeah.
I don't tell anybody. I just tell the person, and part of the agreement is they're not allowed to talk about it.
Well, they don't get it.
So they're all competing with each other without knowing, and I'll wind them up on an individual basis about someone else, but I won't let them do it with each other, because that creates a bad culture.
Yeah. Okay.
It creates divide, and it makes it tribal, and it makes it cliquey. I don't want that. So I think you can do the cheap bonus. I say it's saying cheap bonus. I done it when I was a new leader and I didn't understand anything else. I just thought it was all about winding people up, and he crushed you yesterday, or she crushed you yesterday, and what you got to do about it.
But I also think that's like a very particular set of salespeople. Like I think that's very, I think that suits a stereotypical salesperson that you think of. But I also think the beauty of sales is anyone can do that, and that's not everyone's style as well. And that's not really going to be the thing. Like that doesn't motivate me, or if someone's like, oh my god, I'm going to beat you, I'm like, oh, go for it, like try. It's not, it doesn't always bring out what was intended in people, I don't think, and it can sometimes backfire.
I don't think it's in today's culture, Gen Z, not at all.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. This culture's so indifferent. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, 100%.
You try and do it, you try and get a bite, they're just like, whatever.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you do you.
Just whatever.
Yeah.
They're so chilled. They're so
100%.
chilled. My culture, my culture, sorry, my generation, 100% things like that work. Now, I think, nah.
So then how do you balance that? You know, how do you have, because in sales, you've got so many different types of personalities. You've got different things that make people tick. You've got different things that make like kind of buttons to press to kind of get people going. And how you're talking about your kind of generation. And when you were coming through, it was very much like very competitive like that. And even how people were managed or led is very different. Whereas now it is such a different environment, even what it is now to when I started 7-8 years ago. It is very, very different. So how do you adjust your leadership style when dealing with these different people, be it seasoned long-term sales professionals or newer sales agents who have just kind of started their career, or just people with very different personality types?
One-on-one time. I just manage everybody as an individual. I don't do a lot of team stuff like we were talking about earlier. I do tell you. Now, if I've got a team that all function the same way, all can be pushed the same way, then yeah, I can do it in a bit of a mass scale. But I think your one-on-one person management, I think that's spending a lot of time with your people. I just finished a book about, it's called Motive.
Yeah.
And it's all about being a CEO, right? A chief executive officer, which they actually call a chief executing officer. And one of the lessons in it was spending time with your people, developing them, regardless of who they are or age or how much experience they have. You have to spend time, one-on-one time with people and try and get the best of them as an individual.
Yeah. So I suppose also...
I don't know if that answered the question, but...
Yeah. I think you smashed it.
Okay.
Well done.
Try my best.
I think another benefit to the one-on-one time is you can really kind of get to the bottom of where people are at and really kind of get people's a representation of where they truly are or how they truly feel about things. Because again, in a group, I think you kind of tend to hide that and put on a face. So when you're in those situations and when you are sitting one-on-one with someone and they're either talking about the day or where they're at, their headspace and stuff, how do you know when to like be supportive and put your arm around them and really kind of help them and really just be an ear to listen? And when do you know when to push them and be tough? And
I think we've got to backtrack a bit here for that. So I think going back to spending one-on-one time, the first reason I spend one-on-one time with people is to get to know people. I need to know who I'm dealing with. I need to know how to coach. I need to learn how to coach different types of people.
Yeah.
I need to know where your line is.
Yeah.
I need to know what you want. I need to know how quick you want that. Do you want to go hard? Do you want to go fast? Do you want to go slow? How do you like to be spoken to? Like, I think you got to spend a lot of time with... Sorry, I'm forgetting the question, but I think just to backtrack, because that's in my head, you got to get to know your people. I remember the question now. The question was, how do you know when to push and when to pull? I think it's a person by person thing. I think a quick answer to that is do the opposite of what you feel sometimes. So a lot of sales leaders, a lot of leaders in general, when things are bad, they push. And when things are good, they get comfortable and they're nice. So I get taught to do the opposite. So when things are good, I push. Because think about it, when things are good, people's stress bucket's low. They're having a good time. Their confidence high, their stress is low. Now I've got room with the confidence to nitpick and push, right? And put a bit of stress in there, call it a stress bucket and a confidence bucket here. Confidence bucket's full, stress bucket's low. So I get time to break the confidence and put some stress on and see how much I can push the person.
You've got a momentum and a role as well.
Yeah, they're feeling good so they can take it.
Yeah.
I feel good so I can take it. Do you know what I mean? You feel good so you can take more in life when you feel good. When you feel bad, the last thing you want is you don't kick a dog when it's down, right? So, but when people are having a bad time, their stress bucket fills and their confidence is low. And a lot of people, when there's no confidence to kick or no stress to add, that's when a lot of sales leaders try and push.
Yeah.
And then what happens is the stress bucket overflows and the confidence dies. And you break a spirit and you break somebody's soul. And I see a lot of people, and I definitely done this as a new sales leader. I definitely killed a lot of good salespeople by doing what I felt. Because when someone doesn't perform and hit the KPIs, it's been paid to do a role right, or even if they're only it doesn't matter if you're paying them, if they're on commission, if you're just coaching them, it's frustrating. And what do you want to do? You want to push, you want to shout, you want angry, you want to tell them to work harder, you want to get all your frustrations out on them. But that's not the thing to do. And what do you want to do when people are having a good time? You want to high five them, cuddle them, go spend time with them, tell them how wonderful they are. I've learned that doing the opposite is key. Because also, it's the opposite of what people expect, so it keeps your team on their toes as well. People's faces when they have a bad day, when I'm like, it's cool, man, you're human. Let's talk about it. How can I help? And I like it when people do bad because it shows my value as a leader, because that's when I can actually add value to people. But if I spend it frustrated and angry and try to push your buttons, I'm never really going to add value. And when you don't feel good and your mum or dad shout at you, do you even listen?
No, you kind of shut down, don't you?
Listen. You don't. When you feel good and life's good, you listen. So I think the quick version of that is do the opposite of what you feel like doing.
So when that confidence bucket is low and that stress bucket is high then, and you do have someone that's underperforming, and I think underperforming, in my head, how I see that is more over a longer period. I think everyone has bad days. I don't think it's fair to say someone's underperformed when they've had a bad day, or like you always say to people, I always judge your ability to bounce back from a bad
I
day,
like people
not a
having
bad day.
days. I get to judge them quick.
So I think underperformance for me is more long term. You know, has it been a couple of weeks that this has been going on, or a week or whatever? So obviously their confidence will be low and their stress will be high. What do you do in that situation?
That's easy. You rebuild the confidence and delete the stress. So I try and take stress away, and that might be responsibility, that might be financial stress that maybe I've helped some people with. So I try, because if I do my job as a leader and build the confidence, take away the stress, and they're still underperforming, then the person's just not, can't be there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But if everybody loses confidence and gets overly stressed sometimes. My job as a leader, again, if you're a good person, all right, so let's just frame this. If it's someone who's just learning sales, it's a different conversation, right? There's a time frame on how long I'll let that go. If it's someone who's been a performer who's just having a bad time, I need to fix them. I need to give people time. We'll use football as an example. Lionel Messi moved from Barcelona to Paris Saint-Germain, which I know you'll know nothing about, right?
I know loads about it.
Okay, great, because you've heard me talk about it loads, right?
Yeah.
Probably, right? Because it's such a good...
And now he works with Beckham.
It's such a good example of even the best player in the world, and Ronaldo fans will argue with me, right? I'm a Messi fan, so I'm going to say the best, second best, whatever you want to call it, okay? I don't want anybody getting triggered with Ronaldo
The best
being
little
the best.
one.
The best little one, yeah, Ronaldo's tall. But Messi played at Barcelona, right at Paris Saint-Germain. His first season was absolutely horrific. Absolutely horrific. But then they stopped him playing football.
Yeah.
They kept putting him on the park. And when you found out at the end of the year, there was a journalist that says to me at the end of the year, how come you played terrible this year? It wasn't your best, probably your worst season of football. And in the last couple of games, you kind of come back to being the Messi we know, and you felt good. And he's like, I didn't expect to be staying in Paris this year.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, this was a shock to me and my family. And we did move from Barcelona to Paris. I'm playing football for a team I never thought I'd be playing football for. We're staying in a country I never thought I'd stay in.
Yeah.
So my head was all over the place. Point being, what you were talking about there, so it's a situational thing. If it's someone we're just trying out, then there's a quick time frame on, all right, it's probably not for you. If it's someone who's been a good performer before, who's just doing it, because I always say to people, it's not that you can't perform, it's just that you're just not performing at your best just now. Did Messi stop being the most admired player in the world that season? No. Still the best player in the world in my eyes, he just wasn't playing the best.
Yeah.
So I think as a leader, you've got to have patience, empathy. I've had some bad years. I've had some bad 6 months. There's loads of times when I genuinely thought I was going to lose my job because I wasn't performing. I've been that person. It's not like people wake up and go, I'm just going to do terrible today. It's not. And as long as the person's coming in and trying, and they're trying to make improvements, or hopefully they're making slight improvements, then, if it's a good person who I know can perform and has shown in the past that they're capable of doing stuff, then my job is to take the stress away and fill the confidence back up and get the person back to where they need to be. Which again, if your best player in your football team's not playing well, you got to just sell them and replace them every 2 minutes. If you want long-term good people in your team, and you want long-term relationships, and you want loyalty especially, that's where you have got to invest time and effort back into people. And sometimes it might cost me money, and most of all the time it's going to cost me time, and it's going to test my patience. Of course, I'd like everybody to be fixed overnight, but sometimes, your best salesperson in the world for 4 years might have a bad year, but if you're going to work with a person for a decade, what's a year?
Yeah.
So it just
100%.
depends again on the relationship and how long you see you see it go. And I was talking to someone this morning and they were ready to get a big promotion and they're not, we had a conversation about, maybe not getting there as quick as they would like to go. And I says to them, well, if we're going to work together for 10 years, what's 6 months?
Yeah, no, true.
Well, because you 6 months, you're like, that's a long time. I'm like, but when you put it against a decade, is it really a long time? Even a decade's not a long time if you've got to commit yourself to life, to a career, right? If I have a decade of learning, but I have 50 years of a good time, that's still a good career.
Yeah, perspective on it all.
And I think that's all you've got to do. So I think it's very situational with the person. And I hear this all the time with sales leaders, like, I'll say, what about this person? This person was doing awesome 2 weeks ago. What's happened? They're like, they're terrible. The best person in the world 2 weeks ago doesn't become the worst person in the world 2 weeks later. Yeah. Because you were, again, like for 6 months, you were talking about this person being the best person in your team and the best person in your business. All of a sudden, because they're not performing, they're terrible.
Yeah, true.
I'm like, they're not terrible. They're just not playing to their best. And I always say this to people that I'm coaching. I'm like, your job is to figure out how to get them back to being their best. Your job as a coach. Because that's why people have coaches. When everything's good, the coach can't really add much value, can they?
No.
No, coaches add value when things are bad.
So what about on a bigger scale then? What about if that's kind of on an individual level? What about on a bigger scale when the team is going through maybe a tougher time, or maybe not a tough time, but there feels like there's no traction, or there's, everyone's kind of feels like they're putting in 150%, but we're not moving forward.
Like we've been doing for the past year and a half.
Like we've been doing. This is a real personal question for me. This is just my own question, yeah?
Since last a year.
But I think
we've been trying to get a sales team back to where we've had them.
But it's so how do you deal on that scale of when it's the whole team, and how do you keep everyone motivated and kind of focused on the goals where it feels like you're just hitting a wall every single time you try to push forward?
That's where leadership comes into play. You never falter. The plan's the plan, the goal's the goal. We might not feel like we're running against the wind all the time, but it doesn't mean we stop running, right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry for all these wee philosophy,
It's Watson's wisdom, we're here for it.
Watson's wisdom, we'll recall it. But we've just been through that. It's about never losing sight of the goal.
Yeah.
It's about never giving up. It's never lowering your standards. The goal's still the goal. And, it's that do it. People buy into that, though. The do or die. The word grit comes to mind. And again, it's been a year, but what's a year? I'm dedicated to this for another 20 years. Like, what's a year at 20 years?
Yeah.
What's a year? When you struggle, and this might seem harsh, not harsh, but a lot of people think this is just, positivity. Positivity doesn't pay the bills. But I can promise you this, the years where you have to grit and the years where it's uncomfortable make hitting the goals all that more meaningful and rewarding, and they're the years that give you the confidence to accomplish bigger things. Nobody builds confidence when everything's good. Everybody builds confidence when things are bad, because that's when you get tested, right? When things are good, they're good. When we hit the goal, when we get that sales team to where we want them to be, we're bored at our face. It actually becomes boring when you don't have to do anything. We've not got a wee bit of fight. So people that are attracted to high performance in anything, as soon as they perform and they look, why do you see a lot of sports people getting like depressed and drug habits? Because there's no challenge anymore. So I think I think that comes down to leadership and if you're still motivated and you're still giving it everything and your people see that and you look after your people and you put your people first, that's the stuff that locks people into you. It's like getting in the trenches together. There's something sexy about it.
But then how about in a scenario where, when we're talking about we've had this for the last year.
Yep.
And it's been a real good time and there's been lots of challenges.
I don't know if I've had any fun for a year, but go.
Excuse me, you see me every day. That's
We've had banter. We've had banter. But nothing's been easy.
Oh, like if you look on paper, like our year this year compared to last year's just. But when you're saying, it's just a year, like a bit of perspective, that's really good that's easy for us because we've seen what it's like. We've seen when we've built really good sales teams and kind of had a phenomenal time. And we've also decided that this is our career and this is so that for us it's worth it. But what do you do when someone who comes in and has been here for maybe a month who doesn't have that previous experience or isn't as bought in, so doesn't have that vision of what's to come, and they just experience the maybe not getting anywhere or feel like you're not getting anywhere. How do you deal with that when they've not seen anything else?
Are you talking about from a whole big team perspective, or are you talking about an individual perspective?
As an individuals, if people come in and they start, and we want them to get excited about their sales career, but if they come in and they see people who, aren't moving as fast as they want to be or fast as they can be, or
Well, it's an education that's life.
yeah,
It's educating your new people, but it's also getting them to focus on themselves.
mm-hmm.
And again, people are selfish, right? Do I really care how everybody else is feeling? Do I really care in week 4 how the team's doing?
No.
Do I really care how the company's doing? Do I really give a monkeys? I don't really. So first of all, as a leader, I don't expect you to care. I expect you to care about you. So as long as you've got progression, and don't get me wrong, when a team's getting the momentum stuff, if you're doing your job right as a leader, it doesn't matter if we feel like we're banging head off a wall. It doesn't look or feel like we're banging the head off a wall, because we're still excited. We're still coming in and giving everything, but doing everything with a smile on our face. We don't cry and get frustrated and angry, or,
Not seen you rocking back and forward in a dark room yet.
Thought about locking myself in one for a week at points, with a bottle of a crate of vodka. That lasts about 3 seconds.
Great.
But nah, I mean, your job as a leader to make sure the culture doesn't show the frustrations. I think number one, so there shouldn't be in an environment where they can tell if the team feels like they're stuck or not stuck. That shouldn't be the culture. So there's an art to hiding that.
Yeah.
There's definitely an art, but I think that's down to the leader to create the right culture. And then I think educating people, getting people to measure everything so they can see, because progression doesn't necessarily always equal results. Do you know what I mean? It's like you might not feel like you're losing weight because it's, on the exterior you don't look like you're losing weight, but if you go on the scales and measure body fat, you might have lost a ton of body fat. So that's wee things like that, like a progression, no perfection. But it's teaching people to do the wee measurements and show people movement forward. So again, we've definitely, it depends on the metrics we're measuring the last year on are a big sales goal, right? But if you look at the metrics of development of the people in the team, then we've developed loads. The sales haven't equaled that yet.
Yeah.
The end result's not there yet. But if you look at the actual development of the key people in the office or the key people in the sales team, we've come on leaps and bounds.
Yeah, true.
So you're frustrated because we're not getting to where we need to go. But if you look at the metrics properly and look at the measurements, then we're definitely going in the right direction. It's just taking longer to get our destination. It's like we had a bunch of traffic on the M8.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're still going to get to Glasgow. It's just going to take us twice as long.
Yeah.
That's it. It's a good analogy, actually.
Well, there you go.
Hit traffic.
Well done.
We just hit some traffic, so having to take a different route.
Well, there you go. And I think, I think that's true. I mean, we might not have got where we want to be yet, but I've learned a lot. I'm a very different person now to however long ago.
Some years you make loads of money and you won't learn anything, and some years you'll make not a lot of money and you'll learn loads.
Yeah.
That's the way the world works.
Yeah, no. True. So I think a place to maybe round this episode out is you've built teams, sales teams specifically, for I would say 21 years now.
Something like that.
Yeah. So
I've been learning for 22.
You've done a fair few things, and not just in the UK, but also in kind of the Australian, American stuff like that. So what are some of the common mistakes that you see leaders make, and what should they be doing instead?
First one is they don't lead. Don't expect for others what you don't expect from yourself. They just don't. They get what we call executive-itis. Executive-itis means you got the promotion, you get the badge, and you sit behind the desk and you go on your computer and look busy all day. So I think that's the first mistake. I think the second mistake that leaders make, and we're going to talk about recruitment, is they expect everybody else to be just as good as them. I expect people to be 2/3 of me at most. Yeah. When I find someone who's just as good as me, great. That means I can develop them into being a leader one day. But there wouldn't be leaders if people didn't need led. So you expecting people to do what you can do, I think a lot of people, that puts frustration and unrealistic expectations onto the people below you, but also causes you a lot of frustration and heartache. You went through that. You had to learn that as a leader when you were trained. You had to learn that not everybody's you, and that's the whole idea
Still
of
learning.
leadership. Yeah, you're still learning. We're all still learning, right? So, sometimes you need two people to equal you.
Yeah.
But that's life, right? So I see people make mistakes of their expectations they put in people. I see people make mistakes with the expectations they put in themselves, and I see people make mistakes. And I'll say leading, you've always got to lead. I've always got to have your respect, because nobody respects that you won the football league last year. Nobody cares. No one actually really cares.
Yeah.
And nobody cares. Sometimes even I tell my stories about when I used to do like business to business sales or residential, and I'm thinking to myself, no one actually cares what you do. No. If I went in the field this week, it would have much more, and went and done field sales, it would have much more of an impact for people than it would
Yeah.
talking about what I'd done 10 years ago.
Yeah, true.
I'm just fortunate that I've created enough other sales leaders that I can just get them to talk to. When someone comes and asks me questions about physically going and doing sales these days, I'm like, well, why don't you call this person, that person? There's going to like 20 different people I can put them on the phone to that are doing it just now, because I know that's much more of an impact to talk to someone who's doing it. I don't feel like I'll add as much value as
Yeah.
a person doing their job every day.
Yeah.
So I'm smart enough to know.
Yeah, I think you're smart. Like you can delegate it, and there's plenty of people that you can, like you said, who are in that moment and stuff. But also, I think you are able to jump in and show it and do it and things like that. From my perspective, I think everything that I do in my role, you've always made a point of showing me that you can also do it.
Because I need you to respect me.
Well, I do sometimes. But I think it.
I mean, I hate most of the things you do in your role, but I can do them. Yeah.
Okay,
oh, challenge accepted. Tell me something in your role that I can't do.
All right then. We'll update everyone on the next
I'll
episode
figure
if
that
who's done
out,
it.
and I'll sit and do it live on this camera next time.
Riveting stuff.
It sounds like death to me, but
yeah, I think it like
you shine in your role and I shine in mine, and I do things you don't like and you do things that I don't like.
Yeah, but I think that's the thing. Now, as a leader, I respect you because yes, you might have other people that you can point me to and say, well, go speak to this person or that person. They can help you because they're in it at this moment in time. But I also know if it came to it, you would also just show me, and you can also just do it.
Yeah, if like, and a point in the back of that is if I didn't have the examples, I'd have to be the example.
Yeah,
I wouldn't even call it fortunate. I'd strategically replace myself with people that are as good, if not better.
Yeah. And
then that means that I can get them to teach other people, which actually frees my time up to go build something.
Yeah.
Because if I'm the person that has to do it all the time, I'm not going to grow.
Yeah.
So it's just like right now, like I'm replacing myself with enough sales managers and enough successful entrepreneurs where I don't have to be that example anymore, so my role can grow.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And my role will evolve into something.
Can slink into
different.
the background.
Yeah, slink into a laptop lifestyle, traveling the world, consulting people over a laptop. Jesus. I was watching a thing on a show last night, and it's called, you'll love it by the way. I think it's on Amazon, I'm watching it, and it's called The Holiday Spots of the Rich and Famous. Oh my gosh. St. Bart's, Saint-Tropez.
Yeah,
and
St.
I'm
Bart's
like,
is stunning.
people on another level have been able to do what they want, right? And they've replaced themselves and had run big businesses and, be it. But anyway, I was dreaming last night.
Oh, you go, sorry.
I was just dreaming last night. I like, how cool would it be to travel around all these places still. But in order for me to get to the point where I could travel the world and work on the phone and a laptop, I have to replace myself with other people that can perform at the level I can perform in the role I'm in just now.
Yeah.
I've got to replace myself with enough people to do that, right? And we've got a plan for next summer to do that. But again, if I want to step away from the day-to-day stuff I do, I need to replace myself with people that can do it, because the people under them need led.
Yeah.
Need coaching.
And I think that's a good segue for when we do our next episode, because our next episode is going to be on recruitment and finding those people. So that's a perfect segue.
Lovely.
But any final words on leadership? Anything you want to say on that? Anything you want to end on?
Yeah, I do actually. I think if you're going to...
Go ahead.
So I think your biggest thing is we're going to talk about somebody running a sales team, right? And driving a sales team. I think I absolutely love running teams of people, and I'll explain why. People are like wee puzzles. Everybody's a different puzzle. You'll get similarities a lot of the time, but everybody's so unique and such an individual person that if you're going to run a diverse sales team, right, you're going to run if you want to run a bunch of little, guys, construction workers, then fine, they're all going to be quite similar, right, and easy. But if you want to run a big team, it's going to have to be, the more diverse a team you can manage and drive, the bigger your team will be for a start. But for me, the most exciting things is figuring out what button works. It's figuring a person out. How do I get Amanda to do X, Y, and Z?
Tell us you can't do it.
Yeah, for you're easy. You're easy. You just tell you can't do something. But sometimes I subliminally tell you can't do something. I don't directly do it.
Oh, I don't know when you're doing it though.
There's also, for me, it's a game. For me, it's like when you're running a team of people, you want to get the people to perform, but never feel like you're trying to get them to perform.
Yeah.
And it's like being a wee puppet master. Nobody sees the strings right. And so, I kind of feel evil sitting here doing that. But I like figuring people out. I like figuring a team out as a whole.
Yeah.
I like figuring individual people out. And I know my role's to get the best out of people. So if you're a sales leader and you're trying to drive people towards an individual or a common goal, your job's to figure out, because everyone's got different buttons, right? And reacts to different things. Your job's first of all to get to know people. So, we call them hotspots. And so I know how to get people to run towards something and what to run away from. For me, it's just like, all right, what do if I press this button, what does Amanda do? Wait a minute, when I press that button, she does her best. I'm just going to keep pressing that button until the button doesn't work anymore. So I think just figuring out, getting to know your people, figuring your people out, figuring out what makes them tick, and then pressing the buttons all the time.
Love that.
We're all wee puzzles, right? Some days they're easier than others, or we come with different levels of difficulty.
Yeah. Some are 10 piece, some are 7,000 pieces.
Yeah, sometimes try to figure people out is fun, because some people are quite complex and weird and wonderful. And,
some people have a puzzle bit missing.
yeah. And I think it was, just to go back in this, a lot of sales leaders think that people are in sales just for money. And they try and throw money at everything, and everything's about money and being rich and driving nice cars, or being free, or leaving the matrix, or whatever people say. And it's not everybody. Family, fame, fortune, freedom. People are all chasing different things. Some people just want to feel satisfied when they go home at night that they've done something that was worthwhile, and some people just like pushing themselves. And, the easy ones are the ones that are greedy, right?
Yeah,
but there's this perception of sales that it's just full of greedy people that want to drive Ferraris, and it is to a degree. It does attract people because you can make a lot of money in sales, but there's other people that come into sales that money's, it's a necessity, but it's not the most important thing. So I think figuring out what people actually want and then how to get them to get there that's the puzzle.
Yeah. No, 100%. I think that's great. Thank you so much.
No problem.
A wonderful time. Some good wisdom there.